Welcome back to my Highfleet Campaign 3 community voting videos. We're going through 3 ships in this video that I just want to get out of the way so we can move on to some final votes. We'll have a look at the Intrepid, the Negev, and the Navarin in this one. It should be a pretty quick video. There is also a small, but not too small, Easter egg in this video for something that I'm going to include in the final campaign. See if you can spot what it is. Those of you who are keen-eyed or eared will spot it pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, we're going to need to do a special vote over the weekend for the Nimrod. I'll probably get that posted on the Discord ASAP, because we haven't actually done a vote for that ship. But we'll get it done. We'll just do a very, very quick blitz vote, and I can get a video out for it next week. And I should have time in the next week. The crazy circumstances I've had in my work have finally died down, so I'll have more time in the evenings to get the rest of these recorded. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the Intrepid. Just starting off easy, here is the vanilla Intrepid, something that you should have seen a lot of times in any campaign. It's a pretty good defensive ship you find in most garrisons. It has quite a lot of things going on with it. It's well armored, it's pretty well gunned with the 2D80 mullets, it has zeniths, it also mounts quite a lot of flares. Now obviously the AI doesn't use the flares, but it's good to have them, especially because it's a ship that I can pick up quite easily. It tends to be a common buy from garrisons, and there are also 2 bombs on here. Just it's got a wide variety of roles to it. It's reasonably fast, it's reasonably well armored, it's a good all-rounder. That's the vanilla Intrepid. Keep that in mind when you have a look at what finalists we have to compete with it. Our first Intrepid entry is an interesting design. It is the Chi-Nu from AGS Systems. AGS do bring some very interesting design decisions and design styles to their ships. The first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the upgun from 2 D80 mullets to 3 180mm guns on this ship. It has a Mark II 180 Sarmat and a Mark I 180 cannon. That gives it 3 shots of 180. Also, no blockage on those shots at all. It's very heavily armored for what it is. Obviously, there's some restrictions to what you can get away with on a ship this size with this budget. So there are things like we have a blade of generators here. There's a lot of fuel tanks quite close to the surface. These spurs look like interesting ideas for shot trapping, which I'm quite curious to see if they're successful or not. And there are a few gaps in the armor which could potentially be dangerous. But all in all, this looks like a very dangerous replacement for the Intrepid. If it has a downside, it's probably going to be a little bit slow and hard to maneuver, but we'll take it into a battle just now and see how it looks. So that's the Chi-Nu from AGS Systems. Alright, here we are going in with the Chi-Nu. The game's put us up against some pretty nasty opponents, but it's probably because of the upgun it's got here. One thing I didn't notice before is this also has Palash, so you'll see when we get into combat that it is actually quite well defended. As I predicted, it is very slow. It does no maneuverability at all, so dodging incoming shots will be very hard. What it does have going for it though is this extreme firepower, and you've got to probably just leverage that as much as possible before you get shot down. As a ship in a garrison, it could be potentially extremely annoying. There goes the Palash. That was a good hit. The reload time will obviously be quite hard on this ship as well because of the 180s. Ooh, that's some nasty hits. We don't have any fuel suppression systems by the looks of it, so I can't put that out. Oh, we do have them. And there we go. So there is the potential issue with the ship. Once that armor gets cracked, it maybe won't last very long. But the firepower is extreme, and if there's something more threatening in the garrison, it could be a big issue. Our next Intrepid is quite a different kettle of fish. This is the D179 Crocodile from TRAM. Rather than going for an upgun, we have downgraded the guns to a lower caliber, but we now have 4 AK-100s, which is 8 barrels of 100mm fire at a very fast reload. The ship is quite fast at 250 kilometers per hour and has a thrust-to-weight ratio of 2.8 because its primary motivator or method of propulsion is this RD-59 engine, which is a kind of what I would say a signature of TRAM's designs. Both the Mushroom ships and their other ships kind of revolve around the use of RD-59s rather than the primary engines, but we also have D-30Ss and D-30s here. What the ship doesn't have is a lot in the way of armor. There's no flares. There doesn't seem to be any Palash. We'll check for that. That's something I want to make sure I do for all the other ships. No, I can't remember. There's no Palash on the ship, unfortunately. But it does look like a very good little package. The Mark 100s have the advantage of just having a very high rate of fire. So even if the ship doesn't last very long in combat, it'll be able to lay down a lot of suppressing fire before it does die. And if it has something like Mark 100 AP or Prox Fuse, we could actually end up in a situation where it could do a lot of damage very, very quickly, especially if I'm ignoring it in favor of another ship. So it's a D179 Crocodile from TRAM. And here we are in a quick test battle with it. We'll just see how long it lasts against some quite heavy opponents. That is a lot of firepower for a single magazine. The spread on the 100s is quite high, but we could also just hopefully boost out the way of this missile and this one here. Yeah, and let's just see what we can do with it. Full barrage. That's pretty impressive. dodge this. It looks like a nice ship. It's not quite as maneuverable as I was hoping it was. It only seems to have one fire suppression as well. You can see we're now quite heavily on fire. We're going to go up in a second. I can't move anymore, unfortunately. I've lost all thrust. We have no fuel left. And we now have no ammo. That's a abandoned ship. Alright, so that's the Crocodile. Next up we have the Dumpling from Ensign Foil, and this seems to be an interesting middle ground between the first two Intrepids that we've seen. We have the down gun or the downgrade on the caliber of the weapons to the 4 AK-100s, but we've managed to retain a lot of the armor that we weren't able to in the previous version. One thing I quite like about Ensign Foil's designs as well is they, and not just Ensign Foil, but a lot of other designers have integrated these kind of extra components that sit on the outside of the ship, this one holding the FSS. So it's kind of like an ablative module section with non-essential components inside it that can be destroyed as the fight goes on, leaving the core of the ship to keep fighting. We've got a very well protected bridge deep inside the ship, and we've got 60 30s to give it the thrust it needs and the maneuverability it needs, with no fixed engines for giving it high speed, but it should be able to move pretty quickly in any direction. I'm pretty certain this doesn't have Palash, but I will, in fact there's no way to mount it, there's somewhere to mount it here. I will check on all the builds, it doesn't. But this is the Dumpling by Ensign Foil. Let's see how it does in combat. So here we go, jumping into quite a difficult fight for the ship. I'm keen to see how its lateral movement is with these 6 thrusters. Looks like it can build up a decent amount of velocity. I was hoping... Oh, that was a good shot. Oof, oof. That was fast. It can't change directions very quickly, which is what I'm noticing. But it does have a lot. It can get a good straight line velocity. And I do like the 4 AK-100s. It is a nice armament, especially... Oh, let's remember to fire those Zeniths. And that was one thing I didn't mention before, was those Zeniths, even though the game is showing that they're unpowered, they will actually fire in combat. Which might be a little bit of a bug, but we'll let them off with it. Some good dodging there. Yeah, this ship's doing quite well. The extra speed is really helping it in comparison to the other ships we'll be looking at. This guy's got proxies. This could be a big problem for us. This Paladin. I think that's enough of a demonstration. The ship looks to be pretty solid. So that's the Dumpling from Ensign Foil. And the last of our Intrepid finalists is the Flanker from the Supreme Patriarch, which I think you can see there's like a core couple of builders who've done very, very well in the early round voting. Their ships have obviously resonated a lot with the people that have been voting for them, and you're seeing some very similar designs in these slots where the price bracket isn't moving a lot between ships. So this may look very, very familiar because they've generally followed the same build ethos for each of the ships they built. But this is an interesting design. We've got the 2 D80 mullet, so it has the same primary armament as the standard. We have 4 Zeniths on here, which is a little bit of an extra kick. And again, we've got this kind of module component situation where they've got quite a large flat top and sides that look like they're designed to catch a lot of fire. The ship does mount flares, which unfortunately the AI won't use. I do like to point that out every time, just in case someone's skipping through the video. I don't think there's any Palash on here, but we'll have a quick check. There's no Palash on the ship, so only the first of the Intrepids has Palash. And it just looks like a solid design. We've got a top speed of 211 km/h, thrust to weight ratio of 2.4. We'll see how that does in combat. It's again another interesting design on the Intrepid, and it's nice to see that all of the Intrepid designs kind of fit the role of the Intrepid. No one's put any, at least none of the aircraft carriers or missile carriers that were submitted have made it this far. That will not be the same for all of the ships we look at today. So here's the Flanker in a quick test battle. I'll remember to actually fire my Zeniths this time. Try to dodge this missile, instead I'll fly right into it. Got a good kill there. Oof, we're rolling really badly. I think we lost an engine pretty much straight away on that missile hit. Yeah, we did. We lost an engine in that side module, so we're going down very quickly. That's my bad piloting rather than a flaw in the design, I think. We're actually recovering now. I think the engine's generator on the engine was maybe knocked out. I should be using my flares, actually. I forgot I had those. Oh dear. Just not particularly great flying on my part, but the ship's surviving quite a beating. It does have a habit of rolling over, though, which is kind of fun. But that's the Flanker from the Supreme Patriarch, so that's another example of our Intrepids. That's all the Intrepids we've gone through now. The next ship we're looking at is the Navron Mark II. It's not a ship that comes up that often. The game classes it as a hybrid attack bomber. It has two AK-75 Vimpels as its primary weapon, and then it has 3 bombs and also 2 Zeniths, giving it a weird kind of multi-role capacity in a very small frigate. It has multiple flares, like so many flares, but no active defenses in the form of Palash or anything like that, and it is criminally under-armored. It only has 2 bits of armor here in the superstructure. It is a ship that when the AI bring it to play, I generally kill very, very quickly with prox fuse. So let's see what the community have done and then voted for their finalists for this ship. Just be prepared for things that don't look anything like this design. Well, here's our first Navarin replacement. This is the Big Boats. Sorry, this is the CV7 from Big Boats, and you can see it is a wild journey away from the design. What we basically have here is a pocket carrier. It carries 4 T7 multi-purpose fighters, and that is it. It has no weapons, it has no armor, I guess because you count the flight deck as armor, because technically it is, and I'm not going to take this into a battle to show you off. This is the option they've gone. The Navarin itself is pretty useless, so I'm going to give the Gathering the opportunity to have yet another pocket carrier as a replacement for it. Thank you so much for submitting this. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to yet another carrier being added to the enemy ranks. But if you would like to see me suffer, here is an option for you to vote for, the CV7 by Big Boats. And continuing the trend of finalists designed to just make my life awful, here is the Watchmen from Cadmium. There's some interesting things to look at besides the basics of this build, which is this is a ship with 4 KH-15 missiles on it, and that's about it. Top speed of 91 kilometers per hour. It's just designed to launch missiles at me from the garrison. But I don't know what they have done with the fuel tank arrangement here. If we just zoom in on it, you can see that there's fuel tanks on the outside, clipping through the hull. That's very impressive. Also, don't forget that there's an ELINT and an IRS-1 here just tucked in, and the ELINT is somehow positioned so that it is almost completely available to deliver its, not its payload, but do its job. So this is actually a little bit of an E-War ship as well, able to detect me on the way in and guide its own missiles if it needs to. Well, not guide its own missiles, sorry. With the heat signature detecting on the IRS-1, it's going to see me coming no matter what, and then the ELINT if I've got my radar on. It's another big threat, so it's another one in those, in that kind of suitcase of ships designed to make my campaign difficult and horrendous. If you want to see that happen, sure, feel free. A special note, a special mention to the 2 escape pods that are quite far out on the superstructure. Good luck getting to those if the ship gets under fire. Definitely not designed for tactical combat, but gonna make my life hell on getting close to the garrison. I feel like I must have really upset my Discord on the day that I put the Navarin vote up for people to submit to, because all of the ships that are in it are these monstrosities that will ruin my day on the strategic map. This is the Sentinel for Many-Headed Mishaps, and not only does it have 2 A100s and 2 R3 ballistic missiles, it also has a radar fire control center, an MR2M, and it has 2 AK-100s, and it has a single Zenith, and it has a single Sprint. So it kind of has every missile weapon available to it, apart from a MRL. And it is, it is just geared up to make my life a misery, but also do something in tactical combat when that comes around. Again, I'd like to make special mention to the escape pods built into this control tower here. Good luck getting to those when the ship's coming down. The load-bearing small quarters is also a very nice touch, and I like this exposed fuel tank down here, just as another little why not. So this is the Sentinel for Many-Headed Mishaps. Yeah, have fun with the vote on this one. One traditional Navarin design that got through was the Navajo by I Have Been Gooped, and that's the ship here. It's much more in fitting of the role that the original ship was designed to hold, or at least maybe a similar role. It does look a lot like an Intrepid. We've got a lot of heavy armor around the outside of the ship, 3 AK-100s, which is a nice armament, and I don't know if you've noticed them, but there are actually 2 Zeniths in armored launch bays here. A little bit of heresy to let them launch them inside, I think, but that's fine. No, I think they're actually fine. There's nothing above them, so it's not heretical at all. I don't think this has Palash, but there's a potential. There's actually not a free slot on the ship for me to check. Let me just add a whole piece and just check that. Whoops, I put that outside the ship. No, there is no Palash on the ship. But this is more like it in my book, obviously not in the voters' book because that's not what people have been voting for. But if you want something a little bit less ruining of my day and a little bit more of a tactical combatant, this is the Navajo by I Have Been Gooped. And because it is a combat ship, I will take it out for a spin, just so you can see what it's like in an engagement. I will of course remember to fire my Zeniths and hopefully not fly into them. This will be bad. Seems pretty reasonable. Not the fastest ship on the block, but a lot of these ships tend to have the armor rather than the maneuverability. That does seem to be the focus of a lot of these builds. The 3 AK-100s is a solid amount of firepower. You can see the enemy is seeing it as a highly armored ship. They're all firing armor-piercing rounds at it. That was unfortunate. That Gladiator got a nice hit on us bang on, and then we took a missile in the rear. But the ship is doing a very good job of staying combat ready, even in this situation. We actually managed to bully that Gladiator to death. That armor-piercing fire was bad. We've actually lost the core of the ship, and that's GG for the ship. But it did pretty well up until then, and I'm pretty happy with that. So that is the Navajo by I Have Been Gooped. Okay, the last ship we're looking at in this video is a Strike Fleet component ship. It's the Negev. It's a little bit more of a support ship, bringing into the battlefield its MR500 radar and its MR12 FCR, giving it a lot of support control with the heavy radar, the fire control system, and its 2 Elants. It's kind of the sensor package for a strike group. It does also come with 4 sprints, it has 4 Zeniths, and it has a motley collection of 37mm Sea-Whiz guns and D80 Mollets as a primary armament, 4 of each, which gives it a decent amount of firepower. The armor on it's not great, the survivability on it isn't extreme, it's pretty slow with a top speed of 91 kilometers per hour. It's very much not the most exciting ship in a strike group. It is the support ship of the strike group. It does shoot down a lot of T7s though, which is annoying. So we've got some submissions from the crew who want to replace the ship. Let's see what they've got for us. So our first submission for a Negev replacement is the Ultra Courageous S from Crash Test Productions. The Ultra Courageous series is a really fun thing that Crash Test has done with all of their submissions. They've actually submitted to pretty much every ship a courageous upgun or redesign that fits the role. And this is the Ultra Courageous S, which is our Negev replacement. They've basically taken everything about the ship and just pushed it up to the next level. So rather than the MR500, we've got the MR700, giving it an insane 750 kilometer radar range. We have 2 of the bigger MP404 Elants, giving it an Elant range of 1,500 kilometers. We also have 2 IRS-1 Mars down here, giving it an IRS-T range of 300 kilometers. This is just a full sensor package. This ship can detect anything from the furthest anything else in the game can. It is a very nicely censored package. We still have the 4 Zeniths that we had before. The 37mm guns have been upgunned to 75mm guns. Our primary armament, however, is just 2 D80 Mollets. So this is really doubling down on that sensor role. And let's not ignore the 75mm. They are a good gun. This is also an interesting design because it's actually designed as a top fighter, and when you realize that, the design makes a little more sense. If you look at it from the top, there's a lot of exposed areas here and here. You wouldn't want to be being fired at from these 2 angles, but if you look at it from the bottom, it's actually very well defended on the bottom, and that's where it's going to be holding its own from. Top speed of 168 kilometers per hour, it's almost double the speed of the original, and it has a range of 3,241 kilometers, giving it just the reach across the whole desert if it needs to. So that is the Super Courageous, Ultra Courageous S from Crash Test Productions. Okay, next up we have the Cupier from Cygnus Systems, and they have also kind of embraced the original role of the ship, but flexed on it. There's actually some really cool design features in the ship that I want to spend a little bit of time looking at. First of all, we'll just focus on the basics. The sensors, it's got the MR12 FCR, it has an MP21 Elant, so it's got the 400 kilometer radar range, and it's got a 400 kilometer tracking range off this, and it has an Elant range of 1,050 kilometers. We have sprints built into the superstructure here. If you zoom in them, you can see them built into these really cool towers with good firing angles. It's got 4 sprints here. They've also added in 2 T7 planes in a nice sort of integral launching bay, and if you haven't noticed, there's an A100 missile built into the superstructure here as well, which looks really, really cool. I really like that as a design. I don't see things like that very often, but that's a really, really cool way of having your missile in the ship. It also has 4 Zeniths here in the superstructure. They've used these curved pieces to try and give them as much protection as possible. One very, very big fuel tank, 3,150 kilometers of range, top speed of 140, which is not amazing, but it's fine. And then we have 2 D80 Mollets and 2 37mm. So this is very much just really holding to that support role that we wanted to see from the Negev. I'm not going to take this into combat. I don't really see the point of doing so with such a small armament. This is a support ship, and it's going to do that job really, really well. And our last Negev is the Endurant from Tech Guy. Again, there's very much a commonality between the designs here, and I like that the community have identified that the Negev is this support censorship and have voted for support censorships in every one of the 3 finalists. We still have the same radar as before the MR500. We've got 2 MP21 ELINTs, we've got a radar range of 464 kilometers, tracking range of 125 kilometers because there is actually an MR2M FCR radar down here, and we have an ELINT range of 1050 kilometers because these are both not blocked. We have a primary armament of 2 A37s. There are 2 of these, I believe. I'm just looking, and there are 4 DAD models, 2 of them down here and 2 of them up here. They're unfortunately blocked a lot by the fuel tanks, so there's not a lot we can do about that. This version of the ship is very heavily armored. It's 136 kilometers, almost the same range at 3,164. We also have 4 zeniths built into the superstructure here. I think there's also Palash on this ship, which a lot of the ones didn't have. So there's 2 Palash here too. And yeah, it's another interesting design. I'm not going to throw it into combat either. I don't think that's really a reasonable thing to do with this ship. It is a support ship. It's not designed for brawling. It's there to support. I do like the way the bridge has been elevated here. Just a nice little design feature. And yeah, that's your other option. So this is the Endurance from Tech Guy, and that's all the ships we're having a look at today. So we've gone through all of the ships we're looking at, the Intrepid finalists, the Navarin finalists, and the Negev finalists. Next time we'll have a look at some of the other ships we've got to go, and we'll get the Nimrod vote out this weekend just to cover all of the Nimrod entries that we have. Did you spot or did you find out what the little Easter egg that I've got ready for the campaign is? Let me know in the comments if you did. I'm really keen to see what people think of these designs as well. The final vote is coming. I know there's a little bit of a break between the last videos. I've had a lot going on. I wish I had more time to devote to this, but I'm trying to make it a priority for the next wee while. And yeah, just so you're aware, there is a Discord you can jump onto to have a chat about this campaign and other stuff that I'm playing and just a general vibe. I also have my second channel that I've recently launched, which is youtube.com/@Frost2, TOO, where I'm going to be posting some live streams and stuff. I haven't done all of that yet, but I'm going to be taking the live streams off the main channel and moving them over there just so they're not clogging up your feed if you're not interested in the live streaming. And if you are interested, I have a Ko-Fi, which is a link to in the description of the video. A few people have been buying me coffee there, which has been really, really nice. It's given me the time I need to work on these videos, and I can have a coffee with them as well. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.